The subject you guys picked to talk about today is an interesting one. It came up, Norvell mentioned I was a chairman of one of a local section in my area. And when we asked people, what was frustrating them in the workplace, what was, things that were just keeping them from being effective and getting stuff done, one of the common things was, I got a bunch of great projects, but they don't get funded. Or, my budget got cut, or just frustrations about the amount of cash or people resources to get done the projects you're working on. So that's how this thing came up. And the idea is what all quality professionals have to know about CFOs or people that are controlling the purse strings. So the premise is, and what I was trying to explain to the team or the group in my section was, in order to get funding and budgets, you need to have a better understanding of the financial terms, approaches, understanding of how CFOs or accountants or they think. Now, there's a flip side. It's a two-way street. The CFOs need to have an understanding of quality terms and approaches as well. And basically, kind of everyone needs to learn how to significantly improve the situations over which you can control. I gave a version of this in December, and one of the comments was, it seems as though we get hung up, we spend too much time and get hung up on things with the smallest amount of impact. You go down the rabbit hole, and all of a sudden we're talking or arguing about stuff that's like just irrelevant. So how do quality people get better at it? How do the CFOs get better at it? Well, the interesting thing is if you do a side-by-side comparison, we're not that different. Finance accounting people, they like documentation. They have Sarbanes-Oxley. They have generally accepted accounting practices, depending on what market you're in or what you sell to, ISO or automotive, any other things. We like documentation. They like training. They do training all the time. They need training to keep their certification going. Hey, guess what? Quality, same with us. We like training. We need training to keep our certification going. That's where finance does audits and we do audits. Now, they may use the term risk management, although in the latest ISO rewrite, risk got put into the standards, but risk management control. So I guess the purpose of the slide is we're not that different. And if you start to understand that and articulate that or interact with that group as a proactive partnership, if you will, things get a lot better very quickly. Just keep going down the same path or same logic. Finance, they like numbers. They have all sorts of numbers. Well, we like numbers too. They like processes and audits. We like processes and audits. Now, here's where it gets a little different. They talk about cash. They talk about profit. They talk about return on assets earned. They talk about net operating losses. We talk about parts per million, corrective actions, CPCPK, nonconformances. But, again, it's all kind of number-based. It's all kind of audit-based. But this part of this presentation is probably the killer slide. And whatever finance reports, what they're reporting is what has already happened. It's after the fact. This is where, if you proactively develop a relationship with your finance people, you can come to the table and say, well, I can explain why that happened. And we're going to show some examples of that. But that's really, really important because the accounting people are very similar to us. They think the same way, documentation, training, audits, all this stuff. They're a little frustrated sometimes where they present information and go, well, we lost a lot on that job. Why did we lose money? I don't know. The quality guy can raise hands. Well, yeah, I know. Our engineering change requests were up, our nonconformances were up. I mean, this is a real good synergistic relationship that's important for people to know and articulate and leverage. So, but why the disconnect then? If we're so similar, why are we so different? Because finance has been trained in college, in business, and consumed with generally accepted accounting practices, the GAAP, and audit financial statements for external reporting. I mean, that's kind of what they do. Whether, public stockholders, private investors, banks for loans. Remember, this is where all the money is coming around that we want access to. That's what they're doing. Show me your financial statements. So operations, by the way, we don't really understand those reports. They don't really make sense to us. It's not. I don't want to say it's not relevant, but it doesn't really give me a lot of information about what I can do to impact them. So the idea is these generally accepted accounting practices, if operations doesn't really like and can't understand them, and we have the ability to provide the information, is there something else that we should be creating together? And again, I'm saying together in synergy because I think that's where this really comes together. So the concept of management accounting. And we all remember, when ASQ published a long time ago the cost of quality model. Anytime I'm talking to an accounting person, although I'm laughing because this might not apply anymore with the millennials if they're in your workforce, but people my age will remember the Fram oil filter commercial. Pay me now or pay me later. And we all know prevention is, should we spend money preventing it? Inspection, how much money are we going to spend looking for it? And failure, oops, something went wrong, whether in the plant or outside of the facility, and what's the cost to fix it? Well, this is kind of the thing that we want to articulate with the accountants and start getting to understand, well, how do we get these numbers? Because a lot of this data is not in the balance sheet. It's not in the financial statement. It's not in even some of the time and labor reporting. There are big buckets of it, but there's not a lot that operations can really look at. Now again, failure cost, of course, is always tracked. Anytime I got to spend money doing something I didn't do, and I got to pay somebody back or something, that's tracked. But inspection and prevention are usually buckets. So think of management accounting. And what I mean by that is information for internal business support, not the external financial reports. And this is where I've seen, this is not theoretical, I'm sharing with you experience over and over and over that I've helped companies go through. There can be great gains when we get quality and accounting working together. And again, the focus is how can we understand how things happen and what's going on. And the main focus I'm recommending is if you want to get them engaged, we should start with a cause and effect analysis, the old fishbone. But I don't want to use it in a failure mode. I don't want to do an FMEA. I want to do a SMEA, if you want, a success mode. So when you start talking about with operations, with engineering, with purchasing, and accounting, who's usually not in these conversations, hey, what do we have to do to increase the profit on the new products that are bringing to market? And you'll be surprised. In fact, I always say this, please, I encourage you just, maybe not this afternoon, but this week, just try this once with somebody. Just sit down and try to engage them to go through this. Because here's what we want to start talking about. Again, as Norvell said, we have a copy of the slide deck, so use the slide deck with them if you want. But if we want to increase profit on new products, do we have a way to track within our current computer reporting system? And again, remember, it's usually not in engineering changes, usually isn't in the ERP because it's not inventory related. It's usually not in the accounting system because it's not accounting related. But look at these diagrams. I know we're webinars, so I can't see your body language or ask you for a response. But if you look at this diagram, program A being the blue, and we had 100 design changes on program A. We had roughly 50 during prototype. We got down to about 20 in pre-production, and when we actually went into production, we had about 5 engineering changes, making up the numbers. Contrast with program A. Didn't have many in design, didn't have many in prototype. Pre-production, we started ripping those engineering changes out, and in production, man, when we started making this thing, we were doing engineering changes left and right. The question is rhetorical. Which program is going to be more profitable? And the answer, of course, is program B. I'm sorry, program A. If you do it right the first time, prevent it, get it done correctly, don't do it after the fact, that's better. Another one, can we get statistics going about process capability by product stage? Same idea, program A and B. Program A in design's got a CPK of around 3. Kind of great, right? Prototyping now we're down to 1, we're cutting it close. Pre-production, we're cutting it in half. And in production, our CPK is nothing. Program B bounced around a little bit. Which one's going to be more profitable? It's program B. We learned a little, we tried a little, we improved the engineering changes, we got our CPKs back. Another one with purchasing and stuff, and again, this is where some uninformed executives say, well, we got to reduce the number of suppliers. All right. Let's just compare these two programs, or part numbers, whichever one you want. Program A again, we added 3 new suppliers, we dropped 1, and we kept 8 that we already had. Program B, we added 7 new suppliers, we dropped 10, and we stuck with 4 of the same. Now this isn't as blatantly obvious, and you can argue back and forth about which one's going to be more profitable, but if I was at the casino betting, and you made me say, well, which one do you think is going to be more profitable, I'm going to go with the red. I'm going to go with B. I had a couple, I'm sorry, with A. Jeez. Talk about not having your coffee in the morning. I'm going to go with A. We had a couple new ones. We dropped 1. We kept consistency. And the whole point of this slide is don't just do wholesale rip and replace on suppliers without understanding the impact on the programs and the products you're doing. So again, the same discussion, and we talked about increasing profit, and I showed you some example metrics that together, again, quality and finance could put together. Let's do the same thing, and let's do it on how do we increase customer satisfaction, how do we reduce the cost of nonconformance, how do we increase market share, how do we reduce inventory levels, how do we increase productivity, maybe how do we improve supplier effectiveness. But these are all conversations with multiple business units, with accounting in there, talking about it, looking at it, with IT in there, because depending on the size of your company, you may need some ways to track this other than Excel and 3-ring binders. It depends on the size of your company. But go through these conversations, and again, that over and over and over, when I've helped companies do this, I think you'll be surprised at how those people in accounting, or those executives, or those the CFO, or whoever those bad guys are that aren't giving me the funding I need for a project I submitted, or for the people I need, or the budget I need, is because we don't understand what I'm going to get. If I give you $1, what I'm going to get. So again, my projects never get funded. This is what started this whole presentation with our local chapter. Here's the reality of it. There's a lot of smart people in your company in a lot of departments that have a lot of great ideas. I got the list of ideas and where to spend the money is large, and that's potentially a problem because I have limited money. I got limited cash to put out there. So the question is, who gets the cash? Who gets the budget increase? Who gets the software they want to buy? Who gets the headcount they want to add? Who gets the travel training they need? I mean, how do you decide which project to fund? Well, here's how the finance guys do it, and this is some of the stuff we need to understand well. They use terms like return on investment. Again, if I give you $1, what am I going to get back? And that's just not unique to business. A lot of people, including us personally, on a personal level, think of that. What's the net present value of this? What's the internal rate of return? What's my payback period? Not just if I give you $1, how much am I going to get back, but how fast am I going to get it back? We need to understand these terms. We need to work with our accounting, hopefully future allies, to do this together so we can get funding. So again, things to consider in your organization this afternoon, this week, next week. stop by the CFO or whatever title you use in your organization or in your plant or department or business unit, whatever you're in, and ask them for help. Say, hey, I'm trying to think about this thing, and I'd like your thoughts on it. Help me on, this. I'm trying to figure out if we want to reduce the cost or improve the profit on this particular project we're doing, how do we do that? And again, do those cause and effect workshops. Bring in multiple departments. And again, depending on your company, you don't have to bring them all in a group and make it a big formal thing all at once. You can just do one-on-one if you want. But here's the real thing that's important. It's like, John, I'm really busy. I don't have time for this. Look, here's all I want to do. I just want to have a quick thoughts from you based on your experience and knowledge. What makes these numbers go up and down? Because if you said our goal was to reduce scrap by 30%, again, I'm just making that up, wouldn't it be helpful if we knew what made scrap go down? Then if we systematically said, okay, in order to reduce scrap by 30%, engineering has to do this. Don't give me all those engineering change release late into the cycle. Purchasing needs to do this. Don't keep flipping suppliers on me. I mean, when you flip suppliers on me, I'm starting all over with these guys. And because Cachat manufacturing is 10% higher in cost, I don't have any rejects with them. And so these conversations get very good. Where, by the way, buyers have told me this personally as well. Hey, all I have to make decisions on, all I have in front of me is cost. I don't have receiving inspection delays. I don't have non-conformance trends. I don't have corrective action effect. I don't have any of that. So if you want to help me make better decisions, give me better data, which is better. How do we then develop business processes to reach the goals that our company wants and get the data collection and analysis going to support the reporting that we need? Now, this is what I don't really care if you call it management accounting or not, but I'm not talking about balance sheets. I'm not talking about income statements. I'm talking about the business reporting we need to do, that if the goal is to reduce scrap by 30%, these are the 5 key processes that impact that, and here's the status of those. Now, there may be some technology support requirements as well. I mentioned that briefly, that I don't know how to collect that. I mean, it's not in payables and receivables. It's not in inventory. I don't know where you're going to put that, but I mean, yeah, let's get the data. Let's figure out a way. So it's interesting. People have said, well, and the company I'm working with right now is BProso, and they said, what's BProso? And I said, well, it's helping people improve processes with software, hence the BProso. But I got to share this with you. I was selling software, just focusing on software for 20 years. And after I left that and got out of that mindset, when I looked at the problem with things like getting budgets and getting software approved to buy, is that we skip the steps I'm talking about today about getting the people engaged, accounting people, purchasing people, engineering people, to talk about business processes and metrics that are helping to obtain getting the numbers to go up and down depending on what we want. So we work in that space now. We help develop short and long-term plans on it. We help to cater things specifically for what you need. And we do, as part of the sales process, because I think it has to be, assist in return on investment so you can get stuff funded. On that technology stack, if there's anything you're wrestling with that's labor intensive, manual intensive, I do free proof of concepts, which means send me what you're working on, tell me what you're trying to do, and I'll show you a technology solution in front of you. No cost for doing that. So Novell, try to keep it short and sweet because it is lunchtime. I know people are going to try to eat, but did we get any questions coming in? I'm happy to go through those.
Okay, thanks, John. Let's take a look here at the chat box.
Now, did you tell all the people that are coming in electronically that if they're cheating, and that they're in the webinar but they're not attentive, so they won't get their certificate?
No, we didn't tell them that. Uh,
I'm just teasing.
Looking at the chat box, I don't see anything in it, but what I could do is I could unmute all the lines, so if somebody would rather verbally ask a question, we certainly can accommodate that. Let me go ahead and do that here real quick. Okay. Well, you all should be unmuted, so if you all have questions that you'd like to ask John while he's out here on the line, please go ahead.
And if you want to ask offline too, that's fine. I have my email on the slide deck. I'd be happy to help you. But I really have to tell you, I've presented this to a lot of ASQ chapters, local and actually even international. And so far, 100% of them, I've gotten at least one thank you note back saying, hey, I tried what you said, and boy, night and day. You know, I'm not fighting accounting anymore for budgets. I'm not fighting anymore about head count. I'm getting them to stand next to me, help me come up with a plan, and then when the CEO or CIO or whoever else questions it, accounting is my partner sitting next to me. Where before that, they were the ones shooting me down. Well, how'd you get that number? Where'd you get that from? How'd you do that? So hopefully it was helpful for you guys to get some insights on it. But again, happy to take questions now, and if not, if you want to just email me and get a call offline, that's fine as well.
Hey, John, you do have one question showing up in the chat box. I don't know if you see it or not.
Hold on.
If not, I can read it out loud to you.
No, I got it. What kind of application software do you use to improve processes? My recommendation, and this is based on this whole concept of people process software, is I don't go to software directly. So the answer kind of changes depending on what the people are doing and what processes they need. Now with that said, the pre-proof of concept I mentioned, what I've been working with for the last couple of years, and I found it again very fun and effective, is business process management, or BPM software. And long story short, what that is if you've got any engineers, anybody that's been playing around with Excel or Access, doing stuff, and then it gets to, and again, I've seen people do FEMA, all sorts of stuff in them. It's a way to take it out of Excel, which is really not intended to do that, put it into an enterprise level so corporate IT loves it, meaning it's a relational database, it's insecured, there's passwords, all that kind of stuff with it. But it's based on, BPM is theoretically based on a workflow or processes. So the idea is, instead of going right to the screen or right to the database, you say, all right, well, how do you want to process corrective actions? Well, we do this, 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 and this. You go, okay, now how are you tracking it now? Well, this is what we're doing now. Okay, would it be helpful if in step one it happens here and the workflow tells this? So that's a long answer to the question, but short answer is it's business process management technology. And by the way, then that is used to integrate with ERP, with QMS, and some other stuff. All right, we got another one. What's the best way to generate cost of poor quality metrics so the CFO can act on improving the cost of poor quality? Well, poor quality or failure is one of the metrics that hopefully they do have. At least, you know, supplier rejects or debit memos. They should know that. Oh, no, hold on. I guess without knowing the specifics, usually people have already started to track the time, material, essentially labor of failures. Now, if you haven't done that, if you don't have a non-conformance report for internal failures, you need to look at that. Again, get the people together, define the process, come up with a way that works for them. The other failure cost is external warranty costs. Again, usually that is tracked in accounting because money's involved. Anytime money exchanges hands, accounting's involved. But I guess that's kind of a short answer to your question, but the idea is if you don't have the ability right now, as a minimum, to explain what went wrong. And let's just focus first on product or service nonconformances, whatever you're delivering. That's the best way to start. And again, that's one of those proof of concepts I mentioned, that if you have a project, you're trying to work on something, or got a spreadsheet or a form that's a mess and it's annoying because nobody can access it, all that, that's something I'm happy to do that free proof of concept with. Are balance scorecards useful tools for this approach? Yes, they are, Chuck. That's a great question. And yes, balance scorecards are a good way to get this going. The only thing, I guess, that I would encourage you to review, and if you've already been doing it for a long time, that's great, but go in and review the scorecards, because the cause and effect, that was that killer slide I said, is if accounting comes to me and said, here's the number, here's the answer, we want to be able to say, and it went up because, or it went down because. So depending on what you're doing, but yes, balance scorecards are awesome tools.
Okay, you've got another question coming here, John. Just a moment. It's being typed into the chat box as I speak, so in just a moment you should be seeing it.
Novell, what's your thoughts on the material? I mean, does it resonate at all with what you've been involved in and working on?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, let's see. Are there different accounting metrics being developed in universities to help define ways to measure internal cost of quality? I do not know the answer to that question. I do remember I was very active with the ASQ Quality Management Division, and I do remember discussions about updating the cost of quality document that ASQ has published, but I don't know the answer to that question. I mean, I think it does need it. It would be perfect. It's a much needed effort, and maybe we should get QMD to revisit that again.
Okay. Does anybody else have any other questions that they'd like to ask John? John, did you have any further comments?
Nope, just thank you for the opportunity. Hopefully it was helpful. Again, if you want to ask me anything offline or have any other follow-up questions, send me an email at jmc@bprospo.com. Appreciate the opportunity, Novell.
Okay, great. Thanks, John. This winds down today's webinar. The next one will be on Saturday morning. And if you're not tuning in for the one on Saturday morning, then the one following that will be on next Thursday. It'll be Cyber Risk, a Quality Perspective. Hope to see all of you online either Saturday or next week. Thanks for tuning in. Bye now.